issue because the kids over there on that side weren't from only Korea. You know, they're different parts of, and all the viewers were also from probably different parts of the world. So it should be a world issue instead of Korea handling. Okay, let it deal with them with our laws. Because that
would be an ideal situation, but it's a pretty gray area. I mean, take drugs for example.
But why send him to the States? Why not? Why was he getting extradited to the States? This should be my question.
Law.
Because he was connected he was connected, and guys under him were from the States.
Oh, okay.
The tier 2 and tier 3 guys under him in the States ended up getting 20 or 25 years. And other guys, I think Germany and a few other countries, they're getting between 15 and 40-year sentences.
18 months.
And they were under. He was the ringleader, and they were under him. So yeah, the states had him on all kinds of different counts and charges.
I don't know if you guys know this. If you Google it, the age of consent in Korea is 13. I don't know if it's changed since then.
But is that Korean age? No. Hold on. No. I thought it was 4. No, I ask. I know that sounds terrible, but because I thought it was 4.
14?
I thought it was 14 Korean age, but if it's 13, both actually, you know what? Both of it is insane. Yeah.
There's laws all over. I mean, the States is in the news all the time, so I see more of the States than I do of Canada. But there's all kinds of those crazy laws that exist all over the world that were made. People don't even realize.
But I bet hundreds of years ago,
consent doesn't apply to me. It's not part of my life. I don't have to read about it. It's nothing to do with me. But when someone says, hey, did you know in Ulsan it's a different rule and you can get married at 10? Holy shit. I never knew. I never would have thought of it. It doesn't apply to me. But yeah, they should change that.
Yeah, you know, when you have kids, then you start to think about them as well. You know,
absolutely, yeah.
Because if you can prosecute someone because your 13-year-old daughter consensually agreed to something, then you think it's crazy, right? Because
absolutely.
You guys have kids right now, you know, and then when you think about it, then these laws should technically be, you know, like to be changed.
Remember those kids too, or speaking about being underage or in the law, those the young kids that stole the car and were driving around, and they can't even prosecute them. They were in uploading the Instagram live like, we're gonna run away from the police station, and
for the 5th time in 2 months.
Yeah, and they couldn't do anything.
Right? And they were like wearing these designer shirts like to the court, and I'm like, man, these are kids that
wild
ass whooping, you know, like.
But you know they're gonna have a nice brand on Instagram after too.
Did you guys hear what's trending now? Cancel Netflix.
Oh god.
Because of
in Korea or
worldwide. Netflix.
Really? Cancel Netflix?
Yeah, 9th September was like 4 or 5 days ago, right? Netflix uploaded a new movie called Cuties.
Oh, I did see that. The
kids who were dancing.
The gymnastics girls, maybe?
Yeah, they were dancing, and people said it's like child abuse and child, you know. Like, I watched the trailer, I was like, oh my god, I didn't think this movie was going to be.
I don't know if I've heard of that. I don't know if I've seen it, but I've seen other stuff similar. But that is it's all become normalized now. John Benet Ramsey was how long ago?
Oh,
30 years ago?
The girl that got killed?
Yeah. And I mean, that was like child princesses, and they were 4, 5, 6 years old, and their parents are spending tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh, it's fucking.
I mean, it was already. I mean, that stuff was a problem decades ago, and it's just getting worse and worse. Now it's on TV. Now the internet has changed a lot of this stuff and brought it into your living room.
Yeah.
And so it's more upfront and personal than before. You used to just see it in the national. I read one the other day that was funny. It said before the only news outlet you couldn't trust was the National Enquirer, but now you can't trust anything anymore because they're all full of shit.
I just feel being a parent in this era is like 10 times harder than before.
That's why my kids haven't left the house in 7 months.
my dad says it every time I talk to him. I'm glad I'm not raising children during this time, and I'm glad I'm not a CEO or a boss of any of these companies because they're lose-lose situations. Sports teams, Black Lives Matter, social, all this stuff. You can't
keep up.
You can't do it right. Whatever you do, half the society's going to chastise you for it. So it doesn't matter. But he says every time, "Oh, I'm glad I raised you guys when the problems were just stealing money to go to the corner store and not how much. If my kids watched porn at 6 years old or not, it's crazy."
I think kids having phones too young or social media or social media accounts too young is absolute insanity. And talking to my brother, he said my niece now has begun with social media, and it's hard to get off, man. I downloaded
TikTok. Last time you said TikTok was addictive, right?
Dude, I couldn't turn it. And even the crazy thing is knowing that going into it, like, oh, this is a really addicting thing. When I turned it on, I was like, all right, you're gonna watch a few, but everything is tailored exactly to my taste. There's nothing. I've never, honestly, I can say I've never seen a TikTok video that I didn't think was awesome. Right? Yeah. Not that I didn't like, that I didn't think was awesome.
People on TikTok are so fucking creative.
Dude, yeah. It's unreal. It's unreal.
Like everything, they all have goods and bads to them. He sent me, he's like, hey, do you know what TikTok is? I was like, no.
I was surprised Brian
This was a couple months ago. You know what TikTok is? No, he's like, you gotta download it. It's amazing. Not amazingly good, just you can see all kinds of crazy
Listen,
shit.
I went from like Mike Tyson knockout. Good. Girl in a bikini. I like that. Here's something about cooking. Oh, this is great. Here's something. Okay, no, I didn't see any cats. But it was everything I could like.
I looked for 10 minutes that night trying to find something that
appeals to you.
Yeah, and it was just garbage. I mean, they're funny. I'm laughing. They're crazy, but
dude,
it's also rotting my brain and just a waste of my time. I was like, God, I could spend like 6 months just flicking to the left to watch because they're only 10 seconds, 30 seconds.
30 seconds, yeah.
He's flicking left. He's got TikTok and something else mixed up, I think.
So just next.
Oh,
and I was like, okay, just delete this thing. And he was still going a couple weeks later. He was still going on it.
I had to delete TikTok. I deleted TikTok. I just made an account because I just figured out it was a platform to make money if you want. Like,
then that's what I told him too.
If you're an influencer.
I uploaded a picture.
Yeah, that's where it started from. He said we should put stuff
people
on TikTok.
People were making money.
I uploaded a picture of
Instagram
bread.
Instagram wasn't paying as much as TikTok is paying, so I saw most of the influencers moved their videos. So on Instagram they said, if you want to watch like how this goes, go over to my TikTok.
Yeah.
Boom.
Dude, I uploaded a picture of bread. It got like 1,000 likes in the first hour. I was like, whoa, this is unreal.
That's what he said for this and for
the
We
podcast.
Hope. For We Hope, we could put anything on there. And I said, I just watched like, I don't know, a cup of coffee on a table for 10 seconds. And it had like 6 million likes. Yeah. Everything on there, if there's a billion people using it, of course.
People treat like, depression these days with the social media. So that's it. If you feel sad, if you feel depressed, hop onto social media, and then.
Well, I think that's the cause of it.
Yeah,
Christ.
you're gonna forget about.
I was gonna say I don't think
it's a cycle.
So, it's such a. Oh, it's been said. It's been said a million times, but there's a personal example recently of, without giving too many details, there was an event. And I saw the pictures that were posted. I know all the background details of the event. It wasn't there, and you see the pictures that are posted, and you're like, out of all of the shit that happened that weekend or over those few days, this is what you post? Are you kidding me? And thinking from someone else's perspective who's just flicking through Instagram or whatever platform it happened to be on.
Do it for the gram.
And you look through and you're like, oh, wow, I wish I was there. And you're like, that's looking at the picture I'm talking about, you would say, oh my God, what a wonderful moment. But the shit that's attached to that was insane. It was
5-6 years
it was
ago,
gross.
We were used to be like, wild, like trying, going to clubs and stuff. We just go to Facebook, check this club pages, and you see on Facebook and Instagram, you see the pictures they take. This club is gonna be booming. We go all the way to Busan.
Yeah.
Different story.
Yeah.
And we were like, we vowed never to go to Korean clubs.
But that hasn't changed in the end, right? That's just false advertising.
We stopped going because if you try to believe whatever goes on in there, it's like if it's a whole area, they're just gonna focus on one side.
When did your hamburger ever look like the picture at McDonald's?
Never.
or anything else. I mean, come on.
Oh man.
So yeah, it's a cancer, and it's gonna. It already is. It's caused so much harm.
It in the society as well.
Speaking of Korean clubs, I brought up to my wife yesterday, and I found maybe a flawed logic in my thinking. And we knew we were going to have the podcast today, and I was asking her yesterday about foreigners being turned down getting into Korean clubs. There's some Korean clubs that are only for Koreans. When you go in, you show no foreigners allowed. And I said, that's so racist. How can they do that shit? And she did shed some light on it and said that it's not. There's some clubs that are only Koreans because the owner wants to keep his patrons happy. And I said, that you can't kick people out based on the ratios. It's not only that there's clubs for not foreigners. She said it's in the culture, I guess, that if she was going to go to a club back in the day in her mid-30s, she would read up on the club first. Like, is this for early 20s? Is this a dance club? And they kind of...
I think the Koreans still do that.
What?
But she... Haship, they know where they're going before they get there.
Of course, but I mean, as a foreigner going to a club and like, oh, sorry, there's no foreigners allowed, like, oh, that's horribly racist. But I think the option should be up to the owner of the place. He opens it, he can have whoever he wants, and if people are offended by his shitty business style, then eventually he's gonna lose, right? You should be able to run your business however you want.
There are laws against like segregation and trying to make you can't open a restaurant and say, hey, I can't serve, like, I'm not serving these people.
There was one example. Tell me what you think about this. And this is where my flawed logic was, that there was the example from the States where there was the gay couple.
Yeah. The pastor that didn't.
It was like a really religious bakery, and they wanted him to bake like a penis-shaped cake or something. He goes, I'm not doing this. It's against my religion. They blew it up on social media and had a huge problem with it. And
because there are laws there like that prevent,
But I thought in that case the bakery owner is justified in his decision. He doesn't have to do it.
It's his own shop or it's her own shop.
So can we apply that logic to a Korean nightclub or no? Because I mean
there are no laws here that prevent like people who offer services to stop, like, to decide, based on discretion, like, I'm not going to offer my services to you or that. If there was a law saying that if you don't offer services to, I know for Kakao Taxi, they made it out clear, if a taxi driver doesn't pick you, even though it's pincha, that's empty taxi, and you stop it and the taxi moves, and you can take a picture of the number plate. And
no way.
Yeah, Kakao came out to say, because there was like a huge, like, it's most of the time when you go to Hongdae, Itaewon, and Busan, late night, sometimes, like, there have been times taxi drivers didn't pick me and my
I've
friends.
heard about that before.
Because, we were foreigners like that, so they came out.
We've had that for years and years, just not on Kakao Taxi, just regular taxi.
Yeah, so also like.
Sorry, I'm going home now. Hold on, you just pulled over to pick me up. Where are you going?
What about morally? Do you think the Korean club owners? Do you think it's? I don't know, because they're not only.
But don't they make them private clubs then? Buy your membership, pay your membership fees, or make it a private club. And that's what they used to tell us. In the old days here, they'd say, "Sorry, this is a private club. You need a membership." And I'd say, "I didn't need one last week." Oh, well then we don't accept Americans. I said, well then great, because I'm Canadian. Oh, we don't accept
North Americans, bitch.
And it would just keep changing. So then you know that it's not based on.
I wouldn't try go to a club or a place that I know it's not gonna. But it's sad because, like, if you look, I don't want to mention one famous pub in Busan in Haeundae's name. They made a
Fuzzy Navel.
No, they made a lot of money from foreigners in the beginning.
Yeah,
because all the people who were living there were working in the shipyards and all these people who go there to drink. So many Koreans who wanted to interact with foreigners started going there because they know this is the place where I'm going to meet foreigners.
That's a lot of places.
Yeah, and then I don't want to say it, and then this place was huge. Every time you go, it's packed up. And just beginning of this year, they was like, sorry, no foreigners because of Corona. But then you think about it, like, we live in a country that's like almost homogeneous, like, and cases, like ratio of foreign cases to local, people, it's like it's negligible.
Not even close.
Yeah, so if you going to just be point blank, I don't want to serve foreigners. But
well, if you wanted to discriminate based on something, it should be your religious affiliation in the beginning, right?
that was a good platform and a place for him to make a lot of money, then he would suffer enough to say, hey, I want the foreigners back. No. Same thing. I don't want to go somewhere I'm not wanted.
Yeah, that's me too.
But it also stings or hurts when and I mean, I'm white, so I don't get a lot of it. But I remember when we were in St. Petersburg, Russia, and every guidebook says Asians and blacks are not welcome here. You're going to get harassed. You're going to have to pay bribes. You're going to have to do everything.
Plainly in the book.
In the guidebooks, it says it. Be careful. Don't be out.
Welcome to Russia. If you're black, skip to page 9.
All the guidebooks said that. And in Moscow, it wasn't as serious. But in St. Petersburg, it was rough. But we never went out one night without getting rolled by the cops. They attacked me and Petey one night. Hands in our jackets, hands in our pockets. Said, stop! And they just come up to you, 4 cops, hands in all your pockets, taking out all your stuff.
Oh, that scares the
all your stuff, your passport, because you can't walk around without your passport. This little ATM receipt style thing that you have to have on you at all times, or you get fined. And I was like, holy man, like this is the 3rd night in a row. Let's just stop going out. But the guidebooks told you that. Anyways, we went to the one place. We were 2 Canadians, 2 Americans, and 1 African American. And we said, you know they're not going to let you in. Why do you want to go? I just want to see. They can't do that. They can't do that. They can't just say no.
This is America.
We walk into the place, and it's Vladimir and Wladimir Klitschko at the door, and they call face checking there. If you're not handsome or pretty enough, and that's it. They just call it face check. Not only black people or Asians, but other people also. If they think your dress code's not appropriate, they just say no, and they stand there. And you're like, holy shit,
with
man.
those guns, right?
Too
like
big.
Brian's gun, right?
No, those are like pipe cleaners compared to these guys. I mean the Klitschko brothers. I'm not joking. Like it wasn't them, but it must have been their cousins. and they look and they just go. So we put him in the middle. Like, okay, we're all together. Maybe they'll let us in as a group because he's with us, and some of them already went in. And anyways, okay. You no. And he says,
go back.
Why not? What's wrong? And I'm like, are you crazy? This guy's going to throw you across the country. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, no. And I was like, holy shit, dude. And you knew this was coming. So I don't know. Should we all leave? Is a show of solidarity? Or should we? But we knew it. And I wanted to go to that place. So we said, well, let's stay. We're not even friends with these guys. They can go. They were just staying in our hostel. Anyways, and it was as blatant as can be. The only black guy there didn't get allowed in. But he knew it, we knew it, and it hurts. I would say just stay home. You know you can't go there, just don't go.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, to be honest, I like it when people are blatant. Like you said in the guidebooks, they've stated it. So I'm not even going to attempt there. But like here you said in Korea, you here for a week. You've been there last week. Yeah. And the next week you go, they tell you no.
That's the problem.
That's the problem, you know. If you already stated from the time you're making this club up, I'm going to set up a club for only Koreans. Put it up. Write it below the, like this club is only for Koreans. Then right from the beginning, people know there's no. But when it's like on your people, like foreigners have gone snapped and say, hey, this is a good place. Next infused, a lot of people are coming, and you've got more people based on advertisement, and now you just decide to, discriminate against a certain group of people. Then that's my problem.
Yeah.
But a lot of these places also discriminate against which foreigners are coming.
Yeah, sometimes.
And you see it online all the time. People from poor countries or from countries of other visible minorities that are not white get treated a lot different than Western white people trying to get into these clubs. And it's you got to have one set of rules and just apply it across the board. It can't be changing. You can't be moving the goalposts every time.
But I'm not saying for. Well, won't his business model eventually just fizzle out and be shitty?
If all foreigners could agree on one thing, don't even try to patronize these places in the first place. Once they've made a stand, because a week ago they were saying no foreigners, and they've started accepting foreigners. We shouldn't go.
Totally agree.
Yeah, we shouldn't.
And they lose that part of the market.
Yeah, but they can only accept us when they want to, and reject us when they want to. But you find out because people are hungry for party vibes and stuff, they end up succumbing to whatever oh, let's forgive them, it was just last week, blah blah blah. But these places I'm talking about, so in Busan they put up the names over there hey, these are the places that rejected foreigners during the corona pandemic. we're not ever gonna step foot there again.
Good. Yeah.
And then we agree, and then we don't go there, and they're gonna learn some sense and know like, hey, we shouldn't discriminate because the laws are never gonna favor us.
Good, and that's it swinging the other way, right? That's the loss that he'll take. Unfortunately, we make up like a fraction of the population, and probably won't affect his business all that much. But I think it is good to stand up for what you believe in, and let it be known, man. If you get shitty service somewhere because you're a country of origin, and
but you
don't go back.
Travel. I mean, even when I was in Ghana and Takrady Sekondi, I mean, they had the yacht club, and you had to be a member or you had to come with a member. I was a nobody. I hung around and I met a couple guys, met one or two on the golf course, and then they started chatting. I said, "Hey, let's go." I said, "Okay, sure," but I couldn't get in on my own. And it wasn't just for one kind of people or another. It was a lot of the miners, a lot of the engineers who were, in the area would go there on the weekends to avoid riffraff and people, bugging them or trying to sell them stuff or whatever. They could just go there. And yes, it was a little bit dodgy, and there was women there. So, but that was not, it was just a rule. It was a private place, and if you wanted to join there, you had to make the membership qualify, whatever.
From the onset, right?
I got no problem with those at all. I mean, you have to do what the membership requires. So.
Yeah, just like Costco, you need a card to go. It's been said from the beginning.
Right.
If Costco says, okay, you don't need a card, and next week I go, it's like, oh, sorry, you need a card. And then the next week it's like, you don't need a card. Then
I forgot my card. That's all right.
Yeah, you see, it's going to be. But right from the onset, they said, Hanarumad and all these big marts, they don't require it. So if you want to go to a place without a card, Costco is not
where
the
to
place
go.
to go. You go to Lotte Mart or
totally
you go
agree.
to Home Plaza or something like that.
Yeah.
But Costco has made it right from the onset. You need why do I need a membership card to buy food?
It's rather...
Yeah, like we say that. You need it, so you can't argue with us. And people still buy and go there because right from the onset, they've said it. But these clubs and these places, these restaurants don't say that from the onset.
Yeah.
They just make rules based on how they feel like. And mostly, if you realize, most clubs, they start banning foreigners after there's a foreigner that fought like a week ago. So if there's a foreigner that fought a week ago, then the next week...
But it's always...
They just have a wheel they just spin
or it's just, like a place that never had any foreigners. And all of a sudden... You show up with your buddies, and then all of a sudden they start seeing you taking women out. Yeah. And then, they're stealing our women.
Yeah, that happened.
Because that's been going on here for years and years. The first ones were, no, we don't want foreigners here. You guys come here and you take our women. And we're like, well, but we don't see it as a problem because in our country, in Canada,
it's a shared culture, right?
It's multicultural. I mean. If you don't
stealing our way, it sounds like you're clubbing them in the head.
If you don't like those men or those women, then you say, sorry, I'm taken, or sorry, I'm not interested. I mean, you're not handcuffing them and dragging them out.
As I said, you're clubbing them and dragging them out by the hair.
If they're interested in something different, then that's up to them.
I'm just picturing Brian in 2012 just hooping one on
I was married then.
On his shoulder. You were married in 2012?
11.
Yeah, he used to carry a lasso to the bars with us.
He just put him on us like...
But I remember going to a couple of them and same thing. We would go in one week with our buddies and they'd say, oh, you have to spend at least $200 in. Okay, fine, we'll spend $200 in because that's what you had to do. And then the next week they'd say no. And the next day I would go on a Friday. They'd say no. The next Saturday, like the next day, I'd come back with a guy from SK or, a senior manager from somewhere and say, hey, Mr. Kim, let's go. I can treat. Well, let's go to the club or the bar or whatever, and or the nightclub. And he'd say, oh, okay, sure, let's go. And then they don't say anything because you're going in with an older Korean guy, and if he says a word, he's going to get chewed out. And then I go, where's your balls tonight, buddy? What happened? Last night you were Mr. Big, and today you...
Did I tell you my experience with Ravi in Busan? So Ravi and I went to Busan, and we were in this pub, and it was really full, and then we decided to take a walk.
Did either of you have a shirt on?
No, we had a shirt on.
Just the buttons weren't done up.
We had a shirt on, so we go into the convenience store, and then we see a club trooping with lots of people. We was like, wow, this is gonna be one whole place. So we try enter, and they're like, no, you need reservation before you enter. And then we were like, Rabbi was so bent on entering inside, and I'm like, check the guest list. So I mentioned one random Korean name like Kim Min Son or something like that. And then they check it as like, sorry, it's not in it. And we just tried for like 30 minutes trying to bargain. Rabbi said we're gonna pay two
Kim Min
times.
Ju, Kim Min Song.
We're gonna pay twice the amount of money just to get inside. They were like, no. And then and they couldn't really speak English that well when we tried to use the foreigners' ignorance to go inside. So I wasn't speaking any Korean. You know? And then people just kept entering, and a lot of ladies were going in. So Rabbi was like, hey man, this is gonna be awesome, let's go. I'm like, yeah, but we can't get in. So we just hanging out, and one guy comes, he's like so he works in the club, and he's the one that can speak in English. So he comes and says like, I forgot the guy's name, but he comes and says like, hey, are you with Marco? And we were like, yeah, we were with Marco.
I've been telling this guy for 20 minutes.
Yeah, and then like all of a sudden, Brian, these people start treating us VIP, give us VIP bands, like just take us going in, you know, like take us into the oh, we didn't pay for anything. Give us band, take us in, give us 2 guards to stay with us, me and Rabbi. Yeah. And Rabbi says like, dude, who's this Marco guy?
Dude, he brings you into the back. It's like Pulp Fiction. Some guy comes out with a gimp outfit on.
We spent 5 minutes in there. Rabbi was like, man, we gotta go out. He's like, what if this Marco is some like Russian mafia or like? So we go, man. These people that they were treating us shit like a minute ago, just all of a sudden like changed. Like 2 guards with us, and they ask us, do you want to start with the drinks? Like, should we, or you gonna wait for Marco?
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're gonna wait for Marco.
Rabbi's ordering champagne.
And then we try walking, and they're following us through. Like, I'm like, man. And Rabbi tells me like, hey, dude, we gotta find a way to, you know. And I was like, so I just made because they were following us everywhere. We couldn't even go like to the toilet without us being followed.
It's like you're shopping for a
Rabbi
shirt.
says like, what if this Marco comes here and like, I don't know these people like that, and then boom, like, because they asked us, you want the drinks now? And I'm like, we haven't paid for anything. And then I just tell them, you know what, I want to go call Marco and find out where he is. So they try follow us until the door, and I'm like, can you excuse me? I want to make a call, you know, with Rabbi. My phone was even low battery, it was off, man. And I just said like, and then Zoom, we went out asking like, hey, you know anyone who's Marco, like in this area? Because like it was that kind of pub, like you see Maseratis and like, you know, like all parked outside, you know, like Bugattis and that. So we don't know.
So you thought you were gonna get in with Robbie's Matisse?
So we're like, man, you know, like they just treated us from 0 to 100 real quick. Everything changed. But
how
like,
funny is that, man?
I'm not gonna risk that again, you know. Like we never found this Marco guy in Busan, never ever.
Marco, I'm gonna be on the lookout for Marco now. One of the biggest things that you mentioned, or one of the main things you mentioned that you are interested in coming here and chatting about before you take off was this Sam Okyere. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Sam Okyere.
Sam Okyere. Why don't you go ahead and give us a little background on it and start off the conversation?
Yeah, so like I don't know if you guys have been following it. Like it's been trending for like.
First, I mean he's the first prominent Ghanaian here, right?
Yeah, he's the most famous black man in Korea. That's how.
We're talking about Dadzi. Oh, I missed it.
So Sam Okyere, if you don't know who we're talking about, Sam Okyere is the most famous black guy in Korea. He shot up to stardom because of fluency in the language and how funny he is, you know, speaking the language naturally like Korean. He could make jokes in Korean. He appeared on many TV shows, like the first one, Pigeon Sanwedang. Yeah, then that he blew up. So it's like this case about him got really big, you know, like, and then how people just attacked him and how his career like just started, you know, like to, you know, I don't want to say decline, but
it was
like,
on shaky ground.
Yeah, on shaky ground. Just puts me like, I've been thinking about this. I thought about making a YouTube video to address this, and especially for people who live outside Korea who don't really understand what goes on in Korea. Because I want to start this issue from first when I came to Korea. So I came to Korea 8 years ago. And when I came, people back at home always ask me, you know, is there racism in Korea? What's that like? Is there racism? How is it like? Are people racist? Because most people didn't have any idea about how living in Asia was, and even to talk about Korea. So one thing I always told them, to be honest, I can't say there is like no racism here or there's racism here. But what I find out is a lot of the people are just ignorant.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's what I mostly told people. For example, like
I think before we go any further, maybe define ignorant, because I think when you translate it from, or even growing up, it sounds strange, but I remember the day that I found out the word ignorant wasn't always a negative meaning. My grade 8 teacher called me ignorant, and dude, he was a really good guy. He was like 27, loved hockey. All the guys liked him, and he said like, "Oh, you're so ignorant," and I was like, until that time.
It affected you.
No, until that time, I thought ignorant was just like you're an asshole or like you don't know, or it was just always a negative meaning. Yeah. I'd never really, at 13 years old, I never sat down and thought, what does this word mean? How can it be applied?
But it does have that connotation. Don't be so ignorant. Don't be an asshole. Don't be rude.
When he said it, I can't remember the situation.
The context in which he said it.
Oh, dude, like that hurt me. He's like, don't. He goes, that doesn't always have a negative meaning. Ignorant can be.
No, as we said, you're so uninformed is a gentler way to say it, probably, right? You're so uninformed. Oh, yes, I am. You're so ignorant. Whoa, what do you mean? You get.
Yeah, let's look at the dictionary's definition of ignorance. You know, it has two meanings: a lacking knowledge or comprehension of the thing specified.
Yeah.
Example: parents ignorant of modern mathematics.
Yeah.
And then the second definition is resulting from or showing lack of knowledge or intelligence.
Yeah.
The second part, all intelligence, is what people classify as, you know, like lack of intelligence. That means it sounds like a little bit of an insult.
Yeah.
But that's anybody who's not, you know, a wizard in every subject in the world. I mean, everyone's ignorant to some aspects and some topics.
Yeah, that's why I like the first definition is like comprehension of the thing specified. So a particular thing, you say you are ignorant about guns, you're ignorant about culture, you're ignorant about this, you're ignorant about unemployment rates in the state. Because you have no idea about figures and fact about that.
The good thing in my situation years ago is that he followed up and said, you know, it's not always a negative meaning. It just means you're lacking knowledge, and it might have even been like hockey rules or something. And he said like, you know, you're ignorant in that aspect. And I went, oh, I guess this does apply. I am ignorant as I don't know, and I learned something that day. And I've used the word in both ways. It
depends
on
on
my children ignorant
on the context. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I said before. I also had the negative, you know, connotation to the meaning of ignorant. But when people asked me, I couldn't call like some people racist. I should just only say, oh, they were ignorant. Because like, especially in culture-wise, because like if I sit on the bus and someone tries to touch my hair. Because the person is curious about the texture of my hair, I can't classify that person as being racist. Because the person is curious, the person is ignorant about how my hair looks like, or the kids
or
that
ignorant about social norms.
Yeah, like you can touch a stranger's hair or something like that. So like, and then if I sit on a bus and people avoid sitting next to me because they're afraid I'm gonna speak in English to them. They're ignorant of the fact that certain foreigners can speak Korean really fluently. So I couldn't, So when people always address me like, how's this issue of racism there? I couldn't really pinpoint exactly because there is a thin line between ignorance and racism.
Keep going.
So that's what for instance, like when I just saw my roommate making instances like, you were on Facebook, you have internet, you have blah, blah, blah. And people were like, always asked me, and I made a joke all the time when people, and I was surprised that I used to be sarcastic, but people literally took, you know, like my sarcastic meaning to mean it's like true. Because like people said, how did you get to Korea from Ghana, all the way from Ghana?
Swam.
I said I swam. I came with a horse, you know. I did. And some people believed it in a joking manner. And then when I realized some people believed it, I had to educate them and say, no, man, of course I took the plane. You know, you get it? Like they asked, like, how did you get it?
And I remember playing hockey in the States when we were young. And they'd say, Canada? You're from Canada? Do you have an igloo? And sometimes it is joking, but sometimes it definitely was just straight ignorance.
You mentioned earlier about our view of most African countries, man. What you see on the media,
it's everybody about every country unless you've been there and seen it with your own eyes. I mean, that's why I say it's not limited to one group of people. I mean, I'm ignorant about somewhere that I haven't been, because until you go there and see it, I don't think you can have. I mean, you're just spitting out whatever you think, right? But it's not based on anything. Okay, I saw this, I read this, but how many times? I mean, you've traveled a little bit. I've been all over. How many times I've seen in the news or on social media or on the internet something, and then you go there and it's completely different.
Exactly. When I was going to the States, everyone was like, hey, dude, don't wear a hoodie, and put on a hoodie at night and then walk through. Right. But my experience living in Orange County, California, Korea is safe. We can admit Korea is safe. We can walk around. But I felt Orange County, California, Irvine was much safer than Korea from my perspective. Yeah. And it's a whole different perspective, in the point that I was with my roommate and he was his car was locked, so we were trying to pin lock it, and excuse me to say, one black dude and one white dude in the middle of the night, 2 a.m. trying to do, and the police pop up. It's a death sentence, in other states or other everyone's mind, it's 2 a.m. Police pops up and treats me nice, is hey, you guys, what do you need? And he's like, oh, I got my
lock the keys.
Yeah, key. And the police was like, how do we know it's your car? And he's like, my ID is inside. And the police like, oh, I'm so dumb. And calls backup and comes so I was scared when the backup was coming. I told the dude, man, I've seen a lot of shit going on TV. You walk and talk to him because you were white. That's what I told him. So he walks to talk to the police. But I find out the police was really chill, because at that point in time, this state has really low crime rate and all this. So the police don't have that instinct, mentality. So it all depends on wherever you find yourself at different points in time.
Sure.
And the person.
Yeah. So when people just ask me about in general, Koreans racist, or is there racism in Korea, I don't know how to answer that. Yeah, because
it's a complex question.
Yeah, because people always want to come study here. I studied here for 5 years, and people are always curious. I want to come study there, but how is racism? When I was in the state, I heard a lot of people just walking in Walmart and people talking about Korea. I realized the opinion of Korea was really shallow, because they were limited. Some people even didn't know there were subways in Korea.
Yeah.
But I think that's everyone's opinion of everywhere that they haven't been.
Yeah,
right?
It's
to see
kind
for
of
themselves.
Limiting, yeah, and ignorant.
I mean, Muslims are terrorists. All these generalizations, all these stereotypes, they are. Go there and see them. And I was in the sub-Saharan Muslim countries. Part of some of the best places I've been. Some of the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah, and the different culture too as well. You experience.
Do you think there's racism in Ghana?
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, there's racism everywhere.
Right.
There is racism everywhere.
Good.
Because, sometimes I even admit that there are certain points in time that I have been racist myself. Every human being has some point whereby you have a despondency towards your own race. You prefer them and might consider them superior during to certain moment of time by act of someone against your race. So let's put it so last year, in the 2 years, 3 years ago, there were a lot of Chinese who were illegally mining in Ghana.
Right.
You know
everything, not just mining. They're doing everything now. They're buying
stuff.
up everything.
And one Chinese guy shot up a Ghanaian police officer when they rounded him up. Because in Ghana, we don't police don't shoot right on instinct. You get it? So they were trying to negotiate and something like that. Boom, Chinese guy shot the police guy. Yeah. It became a national issue. And at that point in time, you might make some racist remarks, what are the Chinese doing in my country? Get out of my country, we don't even want you, everything is fake and all this you become that kind of racism exists. But the kind of systematic racism or that prevents people from a different race from doing something, I would say, in my best opinion, doesn't exist. But racism towards this kind of act, trying to acting on impulse when someone of a different race acts something, definitely exists back on home.
Do you think? I think you're going to make the comparison to Korea after that. There might be some systematic stuff. Is there? How many foreigners live in Ghana? Now, Korea is is closed for a long time. I think lots of foreigners are making their way here, and I think they're trying to adapt and do their best. But do you think first, is there lots of foreigners living in Ghana, or is it?
So one surprise that I also got from living, I came here 8 years ago, right? Nate was in Ghana. What year was it?
2000. 4?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, like when I was 6 or 7, I met a Japanese. My friends, like my older friend, he was like maybe 30. His friend, I was like 7. I was like I was kind of like.
And your friend was 30?
He's like.
Or your dad's friend?
My dad was older than him, so let's say he was
Uncle.
like. Yeah, I was his godson.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my godfather.
Family friend. Maybe.
Yeah, family friend. My godfather. But we are really close now. Like our relationship doesn't look like a godfather and son or something like that. So probably in his early 20s or late 20s, and then he had a Japanese friend. So at 6 or 7, they were used to interact with me, sending me the origami, trying to teach me Japanese and other stuff. So. And that's for the average kid, like gets exposed to seeing other races or foreigners earlier. So I don't freak out when I'm walking and I see a white person walking towards me. Yeah. Like that. But when I came to Korea, especially in Ulsan 8 years ago, we could count the number of black people that lived here. We were like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
In Eunice, we were like 5. So when I walked to Onyang and the old people see me, they freaked out.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember when I brought you guys for dinner? I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago when Benjamin and Umar came.
Yeah.
We went for dinner.
Yeah, in the Ulsan University.
And I didn't know that no one told me they were Muslim. And then they had to eat the intestine and everything else at the restaurant because they weren't going to eat the pork. And then we walked over and we went to the McDonald's after, right by your old place. And we walked in there. And there was Mary and everyone was with us. There was like maybe 8 or 9 of you guys.
Yeah.
And me and my wife and my kids. And I said to my wife, holy shit. This is the first time in Korea in like however many years no one's ever seen me. Like I feel invisible. I was walking with these guys and they were getting all the attention. No one even saw me. And usually I'm like the focus of everyone.
Yeah.
Is this big white guy walking down the street, hairy or whatever. And I was like, holy man, I feel like I don't even exist. And my wife was back even further just watching and looking and observing. And I was like, holy shit, man. We walked into McDonald's and they thought like a gang of, inner city Detroit thugs just walked in to burn the place down, and I was like,
yeah, they freak out a little bit.
Everybody ran, but everybody ran to the back that time. And I was like, come on, I felt bad for you guys, and I was like, because I get it, but I don't get it like this. Like, holy shit, nobody even saw me for like a kilometer of walking. Nobody even looked at me, and I was like, holy shit, man.
That kind of like that's what we normally like get here. So Ulsan like that time like maybe now it's like more a lot of foreigners. But growing back at home, I was used to seeing foreigners, so my interaction didn't come as getting scared on my first sight. So it was quite unusual for me when I came here, and people used to freak out because I walked to the office or the international office, and I'm working, and the person just working at the computer turns up, sees a black dude, and then 갑자기 like that, like reaction. Everyone gets that sound. To some people, it might be offensive and racist because like, why do you freak out in the middle of the day? It's 12 p.m. and
because I see Korean people 99.99% of the time.
Yeah, and so with that, I could say they've never been exposed to seeing foreigners, and their first experience just freaks them out a little. So I can't really put them under the category as like people who like are blatantly racist. Yeah. So I could just only say, oh, they're ignorant. They haven't been exposed to seeing people. Because like sometimes kids talk about my hair and say bogle ramen mori. Like boiling ramen noodles, like. And it's really funny. And some call me chocolate and stuff. And sometimes the bosses are like, hey, don't say that, that's racist. But I always like they say, hey, don't you feel offended when people call you chocolate? I'm like, they're kids, they're like in the kindergarten, and that's the only thing.
It's pure, it's innocent.
Yeah, and then I use like cocoa butter, so I smell like chocolate. So I jokingly said like 처음 어렸을 때부터 내가 피부 똑같대요. Like I had the same skin color with you, but 많이 초콜릿 먹었는데 지금은 피부 파였어요. My skin color
changed. Is that Korea chocolate or Ghana chocolate?
Ghana chocolate. I just told them like.
I always tell them, I used to live in Ghana. Do you know in Ghana they sell Korea chocolate? And they go, huh? And just puzzled.
Ravi told me something before. It's funny he comes up twice in the podcast, but he had a black friend at home. Who I think he might have immigrated from somewhere, but I think they were walking together. I can't remember the exact story, but they were walking together one time, and someone made a racist remark
Yeah.
to him, or like, wow, you're really black, or something super offensive. And Rabbi said he took it so well and just said like, hey, I'm from this country, and in my country, blah, blah, and used it. And after he told Rabbi, he goes, you know what? You can't get angry at these things. You got to use them as a teaching moment.
Yeah,
as a teachable moment.
Exactly.
Whoa, what a like,
hey man,
stoic like a.
When I lived
take offense to this at all.
when I lived in Ghana, they used to chant for me every day.
Yeah.
Bafle, how are you? Oh, Bruni,
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah.
And they used to chant. I was like, if we did this in the streets of a black neighborhood in America, or a white neighborhood with a black guy walking down the street, I mean, you would probably get shot. You can't say that. And it was such an eye opener for me that, you know, I mentioned before that the N-word doesn't have any meaning. There's no connotation. They don't even know what it is. It's an American culture thing. It's got nothing to do with black people and Africa. But my experience is, I said to you before that we, as a white person, I've been a minority in many places I've lived for the last, 17 years, the majority of my life, but it's not the same, I don't think, as what you guys get. And I was going to ask you, if I'm in Ghana and I go to the market and I have to pay 1.5 times the price of what you do for the same item, is that racism?
Opportunistic.
Yeah, that would be the right word, because
but
opportunistic for the market seller who assumes that you don't.
But that's what I said.
I don't know if
I could be the poorest, most uneducated white man in Esiyama, Western region, and they would think I'm a god. And I would say, I have no education, I have no money, I have nothing. Why do you guys think I'm a rich white guy?
Stereotypes.
Right.
Yeah, stereotypes like account for all these things.
But because of that, I get treated, right? I have to pay more for the taxi, pay more for this, pay.
It's getting ripped off, I would say. Which happens in every country, because when I was in China and we couldn't speak Chinese, we took a taxi which rounded up until we figured out we were in the same sport and paid.
How many McDonald's are in this neighborhood?
Paid the next money, we just realized it. So getting ripped off, I don't know if we can classify that as like racism.
Listen, it comes down to the person and their intent.
Because even if
they look at you and say, hey, oh, he's white, fuck this guy.
Because if I go back at home right now and I take a taxi and they realize I haven't been in the country for like 10 years or 8 years, they will try to rip me off. If I start speaking like English and don't speak in my native language, then like if the taxi driver starts ripping me off, I start telling him, hey man, we are from the same community. He's gonna, oh dude, I'm really sorry, I didn't know, I thought you were American or something like that. So I don't think we can put that under racism. Probably like stereotyping,
discrimination,
trying to rip people off.
I like opportunistic, but I just wonder when it goes the other way, that I have a tough life here. Hey, I got to pay double for everything just because of the color of my skin, and I don't have double the money all the engineers have.
Yeah,
I'm on a very small stipend, and I'm paying.
Because I realized that back in Ghana, in the cultural site, like the historic site, you went to Kakom and like all the places that like the castles and stuff. When foreigners go there, they pay more. I think it's because of also taxes and stuff, because they want to encourage local tourism. So they want people to go there, and then you would be, if you paying the same thing from someone who came from America to go and see like the Cape Coast Castle, and then the salary discrepancy between the state where the dollar holds higher than the city also accounts for some people charging extra for foreigners.
But if it wasn't money and you were getting ripped off, and I'm just thinking out loud, if you're getting ripped off from opportunities in education, in housing, in other things because of your skin color,
then it will be racism.
But not when it's money.
No, it's like what Brian just said, like opportunistic. People try to be, like to take. Yeah, but if you were in Ghana and they said, hey, your kids can't enter this school because they are white, then that's racism, right? Because they've banned your kids.
When you go to Thailand and you're bargaining at the market, they're giving you a shitty price. And they're not doing it because they're not doing it because you're Canadian or because your wife's Asian. They're doing it because they want to make it extra bucks.
But they don't try and do it to the locals.
Because they know they can't get away with it.
But I can sit there and bargain all day long. Because I don't want to let them get away with it, but they just don't sell it to me. They just let me walk.
Yeah.
Because they feel that
it's market opportunity, demand and supply.
We have more wealth than them, so therefore we should pay a bigger price.
I think that's objectively true.
I think it is.
Because when I was in the Philippines and I realized the taxi for, even though they tried to rip us off, it was like $10. But I know in Korea I'm gonna have paid like 40,000 to sit in the taxi for like 1 hour. But then we just deal with it because, like, I've been here and I've lived here. I know how much a taxi costs, and I know even though they are trying to rip me off, I just pay it off because, like,
when you're in any country, again,
it's like a bonus day for him, you know. Like
when you're in Russia, man, you're getting. It doesn't matter if you're white; they're still sticking their hands in your pockets. And
yeah, so like back to the question that you put, like, yeah, there might be, you know, but like I like the wording that Brian posted, like people try to be opportunistic, you know, like in situations where it favors.
I don't think the average market seller is sitting in the market going, can't wait for a white guy to come down and steal an extra.
No, but if they say that the white people in America are opportunistic because they're taking advantage of their opportunity
that's not, you can't apply.
That's systematic racism, you know, like what you just put. If your kids are not back at home in Ghana, I know like people like there are a lot of foreigners, like people who they go to international schools where they pay huge amount of money. It's nothing compared. Like someone is paying like 20 grand and like my high school fees is like $200 and someone is paying like $20,000 because they want their kids to go to an international school.
Right.
I can't classify that like, oh, if I want to go to that school and they don't accept me because I'm like a low income earner, I can't say that like they're being racist.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you get it? It's all like preference and equal, like it's not equal opportunity because we can't all get equal opportunity when it comes to paying for quality education. So with that, like there might be some kind of, you know, like segregation or between, and there's always like, you know, the rich and the poor. You saw that back at home, like the difference between the rich and the poor is really huge. Someone driving a Maserati and someone not even having shoes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Do you get it? So yeah, with that, we can put all of them under the like same umbrella of racism.
You can't apply the market seller in
and
Ghana
education
and education in America. I think it's two totally.
Yeah, but let's move back to career.
Yes.
Get into the Sam Okyere there.
So yeah, for those people who don't know about Sam Okyere, Sam is one of the biggest like black people, and Sam has always used his platform to educate people about Ghana. Because like one surprising thing when I came and I saw like in terms of ignorance is people thought Africa was a big zoo or big jungle. And like, to be honest, I've never seen a tiger before in my life till I went to Chicago Zoo in America. I never saw a giraffe. I never saw a hippo because back in West Africa, in Ghana, we don't have those kind of animals. Do you get it? If you go to Southern Africa, it is. But people's mentality were like, hey, you know, like, do you? And I just joke like, oh, we have 3 lions. And every time growing up, when you're 17, they initiate you into having a lion. Yeah. And people believed me. You know, I said we had 2 elephants sometimes, like in the backyard, we can ride, and people believed me. You know, so I just like, so when I realized like that people sometimes are gullible, you know, they believe whatever they hear. Yeah. So Sam with that big platform was trying to educate people. And now when I go anywhere and they say, where are you from? And I say, I'm from Ghana. And they start talking about Ghana, and they're like Sam Okyere. So everyone's really happy, especially the black community, because Sam as a big, you know, like influencer or big like TV personality,
for a while.
Yeah, because he was also using his platform to educate people, try to tell people, okay, Ghana is not like that, Ghana is like this, Ghana is not like that, Ghana is like this. Because people were really surprised, and I was like, you don't have giraffes in Ghana? I'm like, no, we don't. And they're like, damn, I thought I would see, you know, like, and people picture like always driving and crossing the road and one elephant just walks up from the left and crossing up. So I just saw like, okay, Sam was using his, you know, platform to educate people, and it's good. And then the bigger platform you have, the more people you can educate. And then the world becomes a better place. Because sometimes you realize that it's not people's fault.
Or worse. I mean, all the guys at the platforms now, I mean, a lot of them have bad influences.
Some people misinformed. So Sam was if you don't know Sam Okyere, just Google about him or check about him. Sam is a big influencer in Korea, and he recently there's been like the huge talk about Sam trending in Korea about what he posted. And so Sam Okyere posted about, you know, this meme that was going on, the dancing, the Paul Bearers. So they are from Ghana actually. So BBC carried out an interview, and these people blew up. Yeah. Because like it was used for like a compilation of like funny incident that could lead to death. And
so for people who haven't or who aren't on social media, basically it's a GIF, no? Like a short animated series of pictures that show the Ghanaian
with the music, Astronomia, playing in the background.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If someone dies in Ghana, it's not the sad 3-day everyone's crying. It's a celebration of life.
Yeah, it depends on how old the person was. So let's say like if the person was like 60, 70, 80, mostly like they celebrate life. But if it's a young teenager, someone passing away, then I doubt, to the best of my knowledge, I doubt they'll be dancing and singing. Yeah, cause
so for the old grandma or grandpa who's lived a good life and passed away, they're in the casket, the pallbearers, instead of a sad walk to the.
And just a few people do this actually.
So I was going to say this isn't normal. I went to so many funerals there.
This isn't normal. I've never seen a funeral with that before.
Oh shit! Okay, so there's my ignorance being squashed there.
So this became. I was even surprised to see this.
Oh, okay.
When the meme started, I didn't know it came from Ghana.
Opportunistic.
People try to be
they're trying to take advantage.
Be creative. People try to be creative at funerals and said, instead of putting the coffin in the middle and everyone passing by it, let's try to entertain these people. So this group of 6 or 8 people came together and like, let's dance with the coffin, you know. And then people were surprised because how heavy coffins are. They are very heavy. Because
of the 6 strongest guys to start doing squats.
So people actually are intrigued by how they can handle it. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people are just waiting for the coffin to fall down and pop open, like that. So they have a good laugh.
That's why the gift's only 3 seconds.
So it's like it draws people's attention. People are in a form of suspense. What is going to happen if one guy just loses his balance?
But what it turned into was that it was the punchline to every dummy on TikTok.
That happened.
Guy that tries to do a triple spin off the diving board and ends up belly flopping. Then it cuts quickly to the GIF
dancing pallbearers.
To the dancing pallbearers, which is a roundabout way of saying he died.
Yeah. That's your body inside and we're
you stepped on a rake and it smacked you in the nose.
Yeah.
whatever the sign is. Okay,
so the story about this, like that's the background of it. This and Sam relates to this because he's from Ghana. Yeah. So the high school student from Mujumbu High School, they always do like this like parody or like they dress up during their high school graduation.
That's a common thing. I think across all Korean high schools for their graduation photos.
Tradition. Yeah.
Some of my students I saw before, they were wearing dresses or they put a wig on or do something funny.
Yeah, but this high school is particularly famous on the internet because every year they bring out like the most funniest pictures, and they blow up. Yeah. So one of them.
They didn't disappoint this year.
Yeah. and it's 2020, so I mean it's not surprising like everything is popping up like that. But they did, and I honestly couldn't even recognize when I saw this. I didn't even know they were Koreans due to how good they had painted themselves.
Yeah.
So first when I saw, because I follow Sam on Instagram, so when I saw it, I didn't even know what it was.
Costumes are fantastic.
Yeah. Because until I read it and I saw in one's guy ear, if you can see in here, I can see, like it's still not being painted well, but this guy here, like he did a really, really good job.
Yeah.
And then so Sam came and said, I quote him, time and time again, why won't people get that blackface is very offensive and not funny at all? There have been so many instances both on and off air where people paint their faces black here in Korea and think it's funny. It's not, and I'm highly against it and highly disappointed. You put so much effort to educate people in here in Korea and make them understand that you can appreciate a culture without making mockery of the people. This has to stop in Korea. This ignorance cannot continue. Hashtag Team K-pop. Hashtag no to blackface. Hashtag no to ignorance. And he posted this.
T to K-pop, what is that?
I don't really understand that hashtag, but from like my Korean friend, it's a kind of derogatory term against like K-pop.
Derogatory term
against K-pop. Against K-pop. I don't really understand it, so I don't want to really. But that hashtag generated a lot of controversy. Yeah. The 3 words that, from my ex-girlfriend's point of view, sparked up this was 1, educate. So from her point of view, educate means Koreans were not educated. too ignorant that came as an insult to her. Like, how can you say we are ignorant? You know, and the third was K-pop. So like these sparked up and people started digging into Sam's past. And one surprising thing was no one had ever commented on that, you know, like that video where he made the slanted eye face to signify ugly face. And the video is in nowhere related to Korea. If you watch it.
That's the media.
Yeah,
the media bias. And if you're buying into that was the first time I saw that was... There was tons of articles that popped up about him, but as soon as you open any news source, Sam Okyere getting in trouble for racism, and that's the main picture of him doing this. You're like, did he really go on TV and say, and this is what Asians look like? Like,
no,
he didn't
it's not.
That.
Yeah,
there's some context behind it.
So Sam almost identifies as Korean because when I hear Sam speak Korean on TV. If you talk with someone on the phone and you don't know he's a foreigner, you wouldn't know he's a foreigner. So he's almost Korean. So I think like with his platform and trying to speak to Koreans as like brothers in the same language, because he even this first post, he posted in Korean and then later translates it to English.
Yeah.
You get it? So he's addressing Korean people, especially his fan base, trying to use this as an opportunity to educate people. Now, let me put it out there, especially in Ghana, to be honest, we don't really relate much to blackface. Until this, I didn't really know. I mean, like... I found that not strange that he spoke up about it, but I thought... Yeah, a lot of black Americans, a lot of black Americans I saw on the Facebook was like, hey, dude, why are you even talking about this? Because you don't relate to it. Yeah. But I also found that like probably he's using his platform to speak for all black people because a lot of black people saw him as a face of black people in Korea. Yeah. To be honest, like my friends were like, I show sometimes my friends like blackface and they're laughing about it because one, we don't relate. Like Nate was saying, when you go back to Ghana and you call someone nigger, the impact it will have on calling a black American nigger is not the same impact it will have in Ghana. Of course. But I would understand if someone got offended. I wouldn't just brush it off like because I don't feel offended because by blackface, if someone is reacting to blackface, I should just write, hey, you a black brother, I'm a black brother. This shit is funny. Let's forget about it. No, I can't do that because I don't know how it, you know, influences his life, how it affects him, how, you know, what the trauma he's getting for it. So I can paint it back. So a lot of people, so the one thing that came out of this, the pallbearers gave a shout out to the Korean student kids because that's also one part of ignorance back at home. We don't know about blackface, you know. So these people just gave a shout out like,
why is Sam angry? But the original
original actually that's the thing that came about. Like no, so the fact that one black person says I'm cool with calling me nigger doesn't ignore the whole point of maybe 9.3 million black people saying like, hey, why do you call us nigger? Just because one black person agrees with it. So the Koreans came and said, a lot of them came and said like, hey, why are you being like making a fuss out of this? These people even gave a shout out to this kid. And why are you angry? But the issue is not Sam being angry. The issue is addressing ignorance. Like, hey, blackface is not funny. Because if these kids just put on like a coffin here and wore the attire, everyone will get the picture. The painting wasn't really necessary.
But it's the same, I think, as the guys giving them a shout out. It comes, they don't know.
They don't know.
I don't expect.
It's passive. It's indirect. It's not the vulgar, blatant, obvious intent to do harm.
Yeah, that's it.
Racism.
Just to say,
I'm gonna
like you know, because some people relate blackface to slavery and all that stuff. I don't think the kids had it in mind. Like, hey, we want to laugh at the slaves back in like, you know, like the 70s, 80s, or 60s. You know, like blah blah blah. They just wanted to show like this funny meme that was going on, and then let's represent it.
I can say straight up, I'm ignorant to the blackface history and
exactly
all its
same with me as well.
But I want to know, like we always say about in Halloween, and Justin Trudeau's on record of doing blackface once or twice. Brownface. If you want to be, if you want to go as Nelson Mandela for Halloween, is that just not allowed? Because that's called appropriation or something, isn't it?
Cultural appropriation.
But if you want to go as Michael Jackson, or you want to go as the Pope, it's not okay for you to put on Halloween makeup as an old white grandpa that's the Pope? Is that not okay?
Not these days.
Yeah, we should.
Which is insane.
Yeah. We should also understand the era of stuff, because some words, and words evolve, things evolve, action evolve. Some things that were not offensive 10 years ago, 15 years ago,
right,
are offensive now. You got to be very careful.
Everything, yes.
You got to be very careful. Like
that's why I said I just want to go live in a poor place that doesn't have a lot of
and you should know the
connection
internet never forgets. That's one thing in our life. So what Sam Okyere's case just came about and made it worse. People started digging out, looking for everything.
Well, hold on. That's why I wonder who's going to be running for president in all these countries in 20 years.
No one.
I mean, you got to put your kid in his bedroom and never let him out for 50 years, and then let him run for president.
Then he'll have
nobody
no
has
dirt.
a story
Yeah.
on him. But everybody's going to have dirt.
Speaking about just how things have changed over time and dealing with racism and whatnot, just recently the Filipino girl with the tattoo has popped up.
It always goes both ways, right? It always goes both ways.
Yeah, but hold on. Just to draw a parallel now with everyone being so so woke. Everyone has to
be careful, because that's a word that's got some
negative connotation to it.
Oh, God. But anyways, everyone
being sensitive.
No, everyone on the internet with an opinion wants to show how good they are and how much knowledge they have and how righteous they are. And no, but they wanna call out the Filipino girl for having the tattoo.
The rising tan, yeah.
I doubt when she sat down with the tattoo artist, she said, "Listen, I'm looking to piss off a bunch of Koreans. Throw this tattoo on my arm, or what is it?"
But background, she lives in Korea, right? And she's a little bit famous or something.
I think I don't really know much about her. Her name is Bella, but she's producing.
The thing I wanna say is that 10 years ago, GSP, one of the George St. Pierre, one of the premier, most respectful MMA fighters to grace the octagon, just ranked, one of the top pound for pound. I'll go on for 2 years about this guy, but he came out with a Rising Sun gi, like his, walking out to his fight. He had that, and there was huge backlash from Korea, and he basically, his response was, I've never studied Korean history. I have no idea how it affected you. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do it again. And they let it go because he didn't know. Can't we do that now?
Yeah, that's
why do you gotta burn everyone at the stake for being ignorant, or even calling out ignorance? I don't know.
Yeah. So Sam is in the media, so he's seen instances. Probably, he's dealt with like racism probably in the media. I'll talk about it later, especially in my modeling career. I'll talk about some instances where I feel racism exists in here. But the thing is, it's not blatant racism. So he wanted to use his platform to address, and it's okay. We see blackface all the time, and people laugh about it. But let's try to educate people. So I just think people should have sat back and said, okay, why is it not right? Why do you want? And people could have interviewed him. Other celebrities could have come on board. But what we just saw is
God forbid we have a conversation about something.
Do you think that being the Korean figure that he is, of the face of black people in Korea, and that popular and having that platform, do you think he overdid it? Do you think he could have been more sensitive in the way he did it, knowing Koreans' reactions and responses?
Hold on a second.
Could he have approached it a different way that would have had a better and more calming kind of effect?
Hold on. I don't know the original post in Korean, but when I read this
in English
with the exclamation marks, it's very hard. Even, messages between us. Sometimes I'll send one and be like, "Oh, I hope he doesn't take that the wrong way." It's hard to
interpret
exactly the feeling of this message. But when I read the English interpretation, this has to stop, Korea. I don't think he's, again, it's me. He's not standing up and going in a authoritative manner like, "This has to stop, Korea."
No, but I mean,
this ignorance can't continue. I think for me, it feels like he's pleading with them, like, "Guys, come on. It's 20. Look what's happening."
But they don't take it like that. Koreans are very sensitive. They're very proud of being Korean.
Yeah.
And they're very
culture.
That culture. So knowing that, if you ask me, if I tell Koreans they're ignorant and uneducated in some aspects of society or cultural aspects, Do you think it would get a good response? Absolutely not. It's social media suicide.
But we have to call a spade, right? That's what he tried to do. Like, this is not funny.
Yeah, and hold on, and he's look what he's done. Maybe he sacrificed his career and said, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna.
Yeah, but do we have to sacrifice our career to put a message across? Like
he shouldn't have to. He should sit down.
Kaepernick, the football player who knelt down and he sacrificed his career just to point a picture like police brutality should stop. Do we have to?
Absolutely not. But this is the world we're living in. So he's got 2 choices or 3 choices. He did what he did, and now it might cost him his life in Korea. What if he took a little bit different approach that because Koreans are so sensitive to being called ignorant or rude or they don't like that. But there's other ways, indirect ways to approach that where you might get way better results. And it's not calling a spade a spade.
How would you have put it in a post?
How would you have put it? He probably saw it, had a shitty reaction. Maybe he was on the bus and 3 people touched his. I've talked about this before.
But sometimes you get sensitive and
99% of the time everything's cool. But one day you're having a shitty day. You step 100%. You walk into a restaurant and the kid goes, "Where you going?" And it's a bad day. It's a bad day. You want to smash the kid
every Thursday and Sunday.
But
it's like
But listen, but it happens. You have shitty days. Is it forgivable? Yes. Sit down and talk.
Well, that's it. There has to be more understanding.
Yeah, that's it. From both parties. And I just feel like...
And you don't think... But come on. Korea's come a long way in the years that I've been here. They've come a long way.
Absolutely.
And they still got a long way to go.
Who has a long way to go? I've never... Maybe... I don't know. I was going to say... When I go to the
I think people all over the world have a long way to go. All over the world.
I agree.
But you've lived in different countries. Renee, you've lived in Ghana. You lived in Africa, like different parts of Africa. You've lived in Canada. And now you're living in Asia. If you compare Korea's level of ignorance to the outside world with the other countries that you've lived in.
Who are we using as a representative of Koreans, though? Because I think 99% of the people are fine, but it's a 1% of dickheads that want to... that have a big mouth.
No, but if the 1% have a louder voice, then it's so like with the question I'm putting to Nate, do you think in terms of comparative to the other countries, Korea has a longer way to go? Or like, because in Canada, you can see a multicultural environment, even though racism exists and stuff.
Absolutely.
But back at home in Ghana, I can see like, it's like a multicultural blend.
Hold on though. That's in Accra.
And Cape Coast and
go out to the western region on the Ivorian border where they don't see white people. They don't see any multicultural. I couldn't tell the difference between the Togolese, the Beninois, the Nigerians, the Malayans. But the Ghanaians could say, he's from Nigeria. Look at the bump on the back of his head. He's from Mali. Look at his nose. And I go, how can you tell all of those features? And now I can between Japanese, Korean, and Chinese.
Yeah, but first
before they're all Chinese. I think I can identify, if you lined up 20, I think... Sure, I think
you can't.
To what percentage?
Okay, but this is what I'm saying.
There are some. Very
so after living in the refugee camp with refugees from 15 different countries, I slowly started to think and see the differences in the facial features. But you living in Accra is very like that's like saying I live in Itaewon. I live in Itaewon, or I live on Dokdo.
Yeah,
of course. I mean, it's going to be very, very different. So. In parts of West Africa where I was, there was many parts that still Sub-Saharan Africa, in Niger. I mean, I was the first white person that they'd seen in 15 years because of the Civil War. So, yeah, maybe they can't express as much, or they're not as aggressive maybe about it, but I'm sure it still exists, but it's just hard to figure out. They're still very homogeneous there. In terms of developed nations, Korea is by far the most homogeneous, the most xenophobic, and with the most distance to go to reach, the other OECD countries call it. Yes, but in terms of the poorer countries or the less developed countries, I mean, they're also very homogeneous because nobody's going there.
Invest in also.
But is it also called homogeneous if everyone looks like you? Because in West Africa, there's a lot of countries mixed together, but they all look the same. So in Korea, there's not... You know, there is enough Chinese here and there are some Japanese here, but it's not that multicultural. Okay. So, yeah, Korea has a long way to go.
Fair enough.
100%.
No, okay, fair enough.
But I don't think they're the only one.
We agree that Korea has a long way to go. And then we can use platforms to, you know, like, do a little part of it. Because if everyone going to sit down and say, you know, like, I'm not going to talk about issue of racism in Korea because I might lose my career, or fear of, you know, someone digging out your past, then we wouldn't take a step further. We'd just be backwards. Because
or standing still.
And like Bryce says, I think that when they dig up your past, you can say, and not Sam, because that was a different situation.
Yeah, we're going to talk about...
if they pulled something from me in high school, or Justin Trudeau, I mean, come on. I think 99% of us have these if we're going to dig into people's past. I'm sure we all... That's a pot calling the kettle black. I mean, okay, I was ignorant then. I didn't know. Now. I apologize. Yeah. I've learned and I've grown.
I do that every 5 years. I look back.
And I just see my Facebook post 12 years ago, like in like 2012, and I realized, did I really post this?
Yeah.
And I deleted.
I see people.
Until you run for president and it comes up again.
Unless someone took a screenshot, but it's like if
you should be able to not profess your innocence, but hey, I was immature then. I didn't know as much. I'm much more educated now, and I've changed my stance.
It's one part of maturity because we all can't be matured, you know, right from the onset. 15 and 30.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's really bad for people trying to bring up, you know, like even unrelated. So people try to hit back at this post by saying, hey, you want to tell us we're racist? You were racist on a TV show, national TV show. Yeah. But wait a minute. Whenever the show was aired, why didn't people come out to say this was racist?
Because they weren't presenting, the context was evident then. There wasn't a problem.
It wasn't
Now
racist.
They're not presenting the context.
Yeah. You get it? And then they will try to go a step further to drill this, you know, to drill Sam down further into the mud by bringing out sexual harassment.
Man.
You know, we talk about working with a new generation and educating a new generation, but to me, one of the saddest things is that the teachers or the principal or someone doesn't come out and say,
yeah, exactly.
Guys, you know what? You did an awesome job on the makeup. It looks great. I know you have zero bad intentions on this, and it's just a funny thing, but we must have a conversation about this situation.
Can we teach different cultures in high school? Can we add it to the curriculum? Because like you said,
especially with what's going on at the current state of affairs in America and now around the world, maybe we should have a conversation about this.
Exactly.
And maybe we can bring Sam to the school and let him give a talk.
And maybe we can interview Sam on this podcast if he sees it, and maybe he can air his opinion exactly and tell people his intent. Because I think people misinterpreted him.
And he speaks fluent Korean. So
and when I came to Korea at first, like he said, I couldn't identify between Japanese, you know, and Koreans and Chinese and sometimes, you know, I told my friends later, hey, you look Japanese. And some people got offended. And I never really understood till I learned the history between, you know, like Korea and Japan. I never knew Japanese colonized Korea, you know. I thought Korea was there. Like, I thought we were the only ones that had been colonized. But when I learned it, I began to understand people's sensitivity to issue. Some of my Korean friends don't like Japanese. I can say, hey man, brush over it. It's personal to them. If I say something and they feel offended, like by saying, hey, you look Japanese, and they feel offended, I just have to say, sorry, dude.
And that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's why I said if Sam knows all that, like you do, and he's taking the test, and he knows the horror that they went through for those years, and you know the uri culture, and you know that they're a little bit slow to react, and they've developed faster than any other nation in the world other than Israel, from a developing country to a first world nation.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not saying he did anything wrong. I just wonder if he took a different approach, if we might be in a whole different situation now where we're having positive discussions about it, and it is considered in the school curriculum, and there is all these positive actions instead of all this negativity, and you have to pick sides. Was he right? Was he wrong?
He has a TED talk also in relation to this. If people could also check it out again and see. And from the post, he says time and time again. So that means he has been addressing this thing, but now he feels he has to use a bigger platform. I don't know how many followers he had on Instagram then, but probably he has said it on a few talk shows and tell people, you know, like, hey,
well, it's working.
I don't feel offended, but a lot of my black friends do.
Yeah.
So like, maybe let's do it. And now he tried to use a bigger platform and it backfired. But could people just have thought about it and said, okay, let's Have a dialogue like Nate is saying about this. Do you get it? Like, because
but that's the problem these days. You can't have the dialogue because people aren't willing to listen. They're not ready to listen.
Yeah.
They don't want to be understanding. They're set in their ways and they're not willing to change.
I think one of the worst things that come of this too, or you showed me some screenshots from his his private messages.
His DM was like
How many, was there 2 suicides last year? From
K-pop stars, you know, like
stars, who are receiving all this
cyberbullying and
first
stuff.
of all, I want to know who's sending these messages. That was a horribly offensive. Do you read those?
Yeah.
Nate, did you see it?
Oh, good lord.
Nigger, go back to your country, you fucking nigger slave breed. Go home, no chibe kara.
But hold on, these are in every country in the world. They're all over. It's horrendous. It's crazy. But it's not like it's only Korea. It's everywhere.
It could be 1% with the loud mouth, like you said.
But it could be a 13-year-old kid. It could be, but
it shows people are not willing to learn.
Yeah, or they're just inside angry people. But why?
And why are they angry? Because they've been ostracized. Because they've been abused. Because they've been harassed as kids. The guy's the Wongta. Now he can be a superhero online behind his keyboard. He can say whatever he wants without consequence.
You don't know how
an incident happened in Eunice. Like, I want to address this, then I almost forgot about it. So when we were in Eunice, we were playing soccer one day, and someone shows me a post one girl makes on Facebook. She's an international student. I think she was watching these war documentaries in Africa, all this UNICEF stuff, and she posted on Facebook emotionally, why can't people in Africa stop giving birth? Because they are poor, they can't feed the kids. And then, like, as someone from Ghana, from Africa, I felt really offended. And people typed, like, and they brought, like, people started pulling up the country because this person was from Mongolia. And then comparatively, GDP between Ghana and Mongolia, Ghana was way ahead. And then people started addressing, like, how can you not research and just post an ignorant post like that? And then I'm pretty sure she didn't expect her post to receive this much backlash. It was
because it's too easy, right? That's it. It's too. There's no consequence. There's no responsibility for your actions online.
Yeah. So she took off the post, but one other friend who was defending her got into into a brawl with me because she said, "Why did she have to delete her post?" And I said, "Hey, the person already admitted she was sorry. She apologized with us. We are cool with it." Yeah. But she was like, "No. It's her opinion. She has the right to defend it. People shouldn't give birth. That's what she thinks." And then
you can change your opinion too.
And people should know, like, your opinions are your opinion, but once they affect other people, you should begin to take responsibility for it. You can just keep your opinions in your head and no one will have a problem with it. But once you try to use social platforms like to voice out your opinion, these kids thought it was funny and they thought, hey, we could get a lot of likes by uploading it. And then you're going to get likes and you're going to get backlashes too as well. But once are you ready to use that same platform to come and address the issue? Like, hey, this is how I meant it to be. I'm really sorry if people took it this way.
And that has to be part of the education these days, that the kids have to be taught that they're responsible. The internet's not erasable.
Yeah.
It's there forever. And you have to be responsible for your actions. And you can't just put whatever comes to your mind. You can't just shoot it out there because it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. Keep those things in your head. Talk to your friend about it, whatever.
Yeah.
And then cool down and then do it. That's why I wonder if Sam, I have no idea. If he did it when he was a little bit hot, or he said, come on, this is the 3rd time this week. I did it on the TV show. I did it.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be
but,
from
But
if
he just, went for a nap, woke up and, okay, I got to find a new way to do this. I've done it this way 10 times. It's not working. I got to try a different way, a different approach for this. And not even like the Koreans, even the exclamation marks make them go, oh, he's angry at us. Oh, he's trying to tell us.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. When I read that, it's
but we're
totally
not
subjective.
Koreans. We're not from the Uri culture.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's subjective, and if you
and then when he apologized, so probably like you said, maybe he just thought about later and said, okay, I have to apologize for this. But what people misunderstand is he didn't apologize for his post. What he apologized for was exposing underage kids like high school students and bringing their images without blurring it or anything, releasing their information, their school and other stuff. That's what he apologized for. But people took it like, okay, he backed out. Like, I'm sorry, that I took offense that you did blackface. I'm sorry, I don't have to take
And
offense.
now
That's
it's
what people think. Like, oh, it's okay because Sam said he's apologizing, but no, it's again a wrong interpretation of what he said. So twice he has been misinterpreted by saying, and people also like Sam is backing out from like because Koreans have overpowered him. No, it's one thing to admit that, okay, I didn't use my platform well because I exposed people, but the same point still stands. Yeah. We need education.
And that's Korea's hate in all of this, is that they don't like being seen in a global audience, which just started becoming as an uneducated, as an ignorant country. They honestly don't believe that, so they don't want to see it.
I don't think most people are, though.
And the cancel culture.
I don't think most people are ignorant? And racist. I think it's
I don't say racist. I think ignorant. 100%. 100%.
A lot of people were ignorant.
I don't mean 100% of the people. I mean 100%. There are many ignorant, and there are in Canada as well.
Everywhere. When you say ignorant, it's as we've defined it earlier as not knowing and not expected to know.
Yeah, with a particular context, like particular field.
Yeah.
You get it. Yeah. So it's not like calling like exactly, but like what I say.
It's ignorant. Hey, you don't know. Not ignorant.
And there's a difference between blatant racism and subtle racism. Like. My problem in Korea is when it's not spoken, but you can feel it. Let me give an example with my, so Black Lives Matter, and I started talking about like racist experience with one of my one-on-one student, and this guy works in HHI, and I said, okay, hey man, like he didn't even know like racism, the word in English. I translated it in Korean. I was like, and then he had to think so deep. I said, okay, what experience of racism have you felt before? And he said he went to a restaurant in Japan. He ordered food, and his food came an hour later. So he felt the waiter was being racist. And I said, okay, what language did you order your menu in? And he said English. And knowing his level of English, I think I asked him, could you feel you might have been misinterpreted by the waitress or waiter? And then maybe didn't really hear your order or something like that? Because we're talking about like people don't have any idea like what is racism and what is not. You get it? Because like at some point in time, people said, okay, fine. Like my friend was working in Australia, and people say ni hao, and she said, this is really racist. And I posed the question like, okay, what if you were Chinese and the person hit it, or what the person said, 안녕하세요? Would you take it like the person took an effort to learn my language, how to say hello? Because people could misinterpret like race and ignorance, and you should take it from.
I mean, even when we're walking down the street and the kid goes, hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, you could be Russian, right? So.
Or it's, even though I speak English and they're saying English, sometimes you go like, oh, why are you centering me out?
Yeah.
Why are you yelling in my language?
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. We can all like, it's not brush this issue off, but there are deeper issues that we have to address than, like someone, misidentifying you. Because when I take a taxi, the taxi drivers are like Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Uganda, like that. And like, I take offense sometimes at a moment because I think the best thing to do is to ask where the person is from if you're not sure.
Yeah.
Instead of guessing, because people could take offense. But the kind of offense that I would take is not a rage one.
Yeah.
You get it? I just always say people are ignorant.
Maybe
and again, you use it as a teaching point.
As a teaching platform.
Because we used to get it all the time, are you American? You would be riding with a foreign woman, and they'd say, oh, is she your Russian prostitute? And I'm like, okay, I can smack you or I can teach you. Listen, that was 10 years ago. There's not predominantly Russian prostitutes here anymore. That's not what it's not who's here anymore. There's been a huge influx of teachers, and the majority of white women you see in this city are probably going to be teachers. And when you see foreigners, it's polite to ask, where are you from? Not, are you American to everyone? Because just like you don't like to be called Japanese, many Canadians or Australians or anything don't want to be called Americans. And you can either smack the guy or go on a tirade, or you can give it an opportunity to learn.
One more thing. First time saying this might come out sound weird, but what as foreigners in Korea, like we've come here, and this is actually something that a lady brought up in my class directly about the Sam issue. She said he's a man who lives in my country. And he's come here and he lives in Korea. Why should he be dictating how we feel or what we say or how we think. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like almost in my mind, I'm drawing some parallel between Western worlds and when Muslim people are going in. You hear like, "Don't bring your Sharia law over here." Again, this is it's a big extreme, but maybe they feel the same. Don't bring your Western ideals or ways of life. We're fine how we are. You know, why?
Yeah, but when your way of life or your normal like way of life affects people culturally, or drives hate towards a certain race, then you might have to relook at your culture. Do you understand? So like maybe some 10, 50 years ago it was normal because Korean just thought, oh, the way to show black people is like, but now we have black people here who could play the role. You know, maybe 10, 15 years ago it was hard to find a black person to act on screen, but now you can have it. I'm gonna give you a typical example. You know, I've had some few like probably like a few races like experiences here, racism in the industry. So you asked about my modeling career and stuff. So just this year I got the message from an agency, and I hardly get those because as a black person in Korea, modeling is very hard because Koreans naturally would prefer a light skin to play a role on TV because probably they might see it as superior. So it's already another battlefield I'm facing. I'm sure Sam was facing it in the industry. It's more barriers as well. So Kyungchon Chicken requested, Kyungchon Chicken, right? They're really famous. So they requested models, and I think they specifically wanted a black model, a white model, an older person, and a kid. To model chicken. So we go
eating the bones.
So we go and then we take in. So this agent contacted me. I was really surprised because I don't normally get a lot of offers from him, but particularly he looked through his kakao and said, oh, this is the black model, and then let's see. So he requested that I come, and I just took a train from here to all the way to Seoul. He drove there was another model. He's really good. He drove the guy from Seoul to there. Free ride, came, we did this shot. Easy gig, finger modeling, hold the chicken, position it, and finish. And I was late because I had a different gig that I had to do in Ulsan. So right from there, he just dropped me off at the KTX station. I took a KTX and I came. And then I texted him my bank account number, expecting, because normally we get paid right after that.
Oh, okay.
So
you're done the gig?
Yeah, when you're done with the gig, you get paid. It's not like you have to wait the end of the month for salary. So this was like 25th. So I sent him a message like, hey, this is my bank account number. Thanks for it. Was nice working with you. And then 2 days later, the money's not in my account. So I text the other model, white guy, and say, hey, man, did you get paid? And he's like, yeah, I got paid in cash right away. So I text this guy and I said, hey, man, but you paid the other model in cash right away. Why haven't you transferred my money? He's like, I'm going to pay you on 30th. And I'm like, why did you pay that dude right away and you're going to pay me at the end of the month? This is not a salary job. This is a gig. We do pay as you go. And the reason he told me? Because the other guy didn't have a bank account. It's very, it's racism, indirect in a way, because like, what does having a bank account? If you have the money in cash and you have a bank account, it's simple. You just put it in your bank account and send it to me. Or if he didn't have it, why didn't you give me cash when you dropped me off?
Absolutely.
And even on the 30th, he paid me around 7 p.m. by constantly me texting him, And I talked with the white guy about his experience in the modeling industry, and I found that he isn't facing as much barriers like I'm facing.
Sure.
Exactly. So I just felt, whoa. On the low, they wouldn't tell you in the industry when you are going into the modeling industry or career acting, entertainment industry. They wouldn't tell you sometimes we don't want you to be the face of Samsung because of your skin color. But indirectly, they would just say, oh, we casted other models like blah, blah, blah.
I think indirectness is...
it hurts more than someone being blatant and say, hey, I'm not paying you because then I know I'm not going to work with you.
I think you can tack that up to a cultural thing. I've had one really good example. I had a friend who owned a hagwon, and I worked for him I would do a couple Saturday classes, and the new semester was starting. This is he's a close friend. Hey, are we starting the class next Saturday?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the kids really love those books that you used last term. Good. So the class is going to continue because I know the kids are going from elementary to middle school. the moms thought your class was great. I'm like, that's good. What's happening next week? Well, kids, their schedules like to change here. Do I have a class?
Or not?
Yes or no?
Yeah.
What? No. Like, you couldn't have just said no 10 times before.
That's very common here.
Yeah.
I mean, the beat around the bush,
Yeah,
not giving the answer,
exactly,
especially if it's not a positive answer. They don't like to go directly to the point on something negative or a straight up no.
But the point is, it's like, it exists.
Yeah.
Whether you admit it or not, it exists. The way you put it doesn't change the fact that you are denying me equal access to opportunities because of my skin color. But if you face to address the issue like, hey, it exists, then we know it's a problem and we start working towards it.
Isn't modeling and acting a different? It's not a hogline job, right? I don't know. They cast the. Maybe it's a stupid comment, but when they're, I think modeling isn't that different? Don't they look for specific roles? Or
Yeah, your pipes are too big. Sorry.
Features, yeah. So modeling jobs mostly specify Caucasian, looking for like Southeast Asian, because it depends on what role you're gonna play. Sometimes they need extras for a movie. Yeah. Sometimes they want to model like fashion clothes or something, and they think, oh.
I always wonder about like super obese people who get
Yeah, like in modeling industry, it's really hard. Yeah, so but when the gigs don't have specific races, like race attached to them.
Okay, so I guess each gig is.
Yeah, it's different.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe you need a runway model. If you state a runway model, then if you're a person that wants only this category of people, you should add it to minimize the number of applications to it.
Of course, yeah.
Do you get it? That's how the industry should work.
The same with looking for teachers here.
Yeah, exactly.
Only from the 7 countries. But they don't tell you only from the 7 countries and white because that's not okay.
And they say attach your picture to it.
Right.
And then you can easily be kicked out.
Yeah.
So one thing about when I was applying jobs in Korea, I thought, first my picture was on it. I didn't really care. But then I saw that it didn't help me in a way. And later when people call you and they see you, you can see the disappointment on their face because talking on the phone sometimes.
Can you hear the disappointment in their voice?
Yeah. And last month, we were in Busan. We had an incident with a taxi driver. I spoke Korean quite good. So the police, I'm sure, couldn't tell I wasn't Korean. So this taxi driver is driving us around with his tie burst. And then the car is shaking around. And we hey, man, it's dangerous. We want to get off. He had barely driven for 3 minutes. The meter hadn't read. This guy insisted on charging us. And we're like, no, man, dude, the problem is your car. You shouldn't be driving with this car in the first place to pick us up. You can't deliver, you can't put us to our final destination. So you shouldn't have even picked the call up in the first place. This taxi driver starts arguing with us, and I know it's going to get into a confrontation. If it was to be for me, I wouldn't have paid. But my cousin pays, and it's let's avoid this thing. But I had already reported through Kakao Taxi. Automatically goes to the police. They call me. There's where are you? We saw there's a report, blah, blah, blah. They sent 2 police cars, dispatches 6 people all of a sudden came. And then they came and then they realized it was a foreigner. And I heard them talking amongst themselves he's Korean, he's good, blah, 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 blah. And I could feel a little bit of disappointment, even though they wouldn't state it
sure.
Damn, we thought you were Korean. And they said, so far as there was no physical assault or something like that. And I'm like, no, the point of it is not about. It's about how the guy treated us. He is driving with it. If I was driving with a car, I was driving a car because I drive in Korea and I had a burst tie and the police stops me over. They could probably prosecute me or arrest me because I knew it and I was still driving it.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, it's the tie doesn't. And I took a picture and I showed them. And there's no, the tie is not it's not burst. It doesn't have air. And I'm like, it's not that. The guy got into a little brawl with us, even though there was no fist fight or anything. But putting my life in danger is a concern for you. Why should you say "상관 없어요"? It's no problem because you came and realized I was not a Korean.
Right.
And from there, they already assumed or presumed I was foreigner. I was a Korean from the way I was talking. And they come and they're disappointed we thought we were going to save our own, but...
One last quick one, not related to skin color.
Yeah.
But remember when we had Ubaid on?
Yeah.
And he changed his name. What's his alias online?
Jose, this is East Marshall.
East Marshall. Because when he would apply for teaching jobs and it clearly showed a Muslim name, he wouldn't get any jobs.
Yeah.
Changed his name to East Marshall. hey, I'm Canadian Pakistani. Now he gets 1 million jobs.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of.
And that's like you say, you can read the disappointment in their voice or their face. Same thing, just on the name alone. And those are just part-time gigs, right? No pictures or whatever. So who are you? If you put your real name, nothing. If you put the other one, boom, get all the jobs you want.
Yeah. So if we could address it like, okay, this system exists and we all identify it's a problem, it's a cancer, we can work toward this by educating people, then we can. But if people fail to admit that there is this kind of unspoken racism, unspoken discrimination in here, then we can never tackle it. Because I think a lot of foreigners have gotten used to the idea like, this is how Korea is. This is how Korea is forever gonna be. We're never gonna be accepted.
It's changing, but your country has it. My country has it. These conversations that we're having are important.
Yeah, I'm hoping
we go and have these conversations with a few other people, and we share this with some people, and it slowly moves the needle and starts changing the mentality of the general society. But yeah, it's not going to happen overnight. And remember back to the Uri culture and why they're in this position in the first place.
Invasions.
Yeah, I mean, protecting them
over the years.
Yeah,
from the outside. Yeah. I mean, we're married to Koreans, so obviously it's changed. I mean, obviously something's changed because we're married to them now. So, yeah, these conversations are important. Keep having them, as many people as you can, and it'll slowly start to make a difference.
Yeah, man. Anyways, dude, we're running out of time here. Let's call it.
It's been like hearing the opinions of different people. Next time I would like to have like Koreans also on board to try to listen to their opinion about this whole thing, because this is coming from our perspective. Absolutely. It would be balanced if we could have a Korean perspective and like ask them.
Well, let's get one.
What did you feel about this? This post, does it attack you personally? Because most of my friends that I talked with are already open-minded. So they're really angry at the people who are canceling, cancel Sam Okyere, cancel K-pop, cancel blah, 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 cancel culture. It's getting crazy. Because you saw what they did to Japan, cancel Japan, boycott Japan. And it really took effect.
Yeah.
And these days, if you say cancel anything, it takes. So that's what I'm just worried about.
Soon there's going to be more canceled than not canceled. And the canceled is going to be the majority, so that will be all right. Anyways, dude, we gotta cut it. Let's do it again before you.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, dude.
It was nice, man.
Goodbye.
Peace out. Yeah.